All right. You ready for the next thing?
Yeah.
Oh, right. The clap.
Go.
Hi, everybody. It's AlsoAshley. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm with Tyler from the internet again.
Hello.
Never enough Tyler from the internet. Tyler, what are you up to these days?
Nothing.
Good.
Next question.
I didn't actually want an answer.
Selling t-shirts and being a loser.
Ah, that's the way to go.
I heard that Olivia Nuzzi, or whatever her name is, only sold 1,200 copies of her book. Mm-hmm. And I posted today, I've sold more t-shirts than she sold books, and nobody knows who the I even am. And like that got retweeted around. I sold a bunch of shirts today.
Oh, that's great. There we go. Yeah. That's awesome.
TylerFromTheInternet.com. Buy some shitpost shirts. Go ahead.
You're my sponsor. That's what I can pretend. I joke about how I can't get a sponsored brand deal, but you are hidden in plain sight this whole time.
I always thought it would be fun if you were not doing sponsorships and then you got big enough that you might start doing sponsorships soon, start doing fake ones. Like, I just think that would be so fun.
That would be amazing. That would be the way I would want to do brand deals. Have you ever heard of internet comment etiquette with Eric? It's him doing like fake lessons about how to properly react to comments and stuff. And of course, he's amazing. He's incredible. Like he has this weird film career in his past, kind of like we do. And he's in like a random episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and all that stuff. But it's not even the videos themselves. His brand deals are insane. They are like their own sitcom plot lines.
Well, what did you buy with mother's money? Oh, brother, I'm so glad you asked. I got Raycons.
Somebody tries to snoop on you, all they get is a bag of nails, which is to say that they ain't gonna find shit.
People love his like versions of brand deals so much that they will just watch a 10-minute ad for like Raycon headphones because of the insane shit he does.
He puts it up. That's great. I like that idea. I haven't seen that channel. I gotta check it out. Link it to me later. Nakey Jakey right now is my favorite.
Oh yeah.
In terms of the commercials, the sponsorships that he does when he stops everything and he does I'm Jakey and Jakey, attorneys at law or whatever. I love that. God.
Oh, here we go. You ready for this segue? Speaking of random internet influencers, Tyler, have you heard of the blue trans girl on Twitter?
No, because it's Twitter. I don't know. I'm on Blue Sky. I don't know Twitter drama no more. What happened?
So I wanted to discuss this with you because I have had thoughts. I just did a recent video that did very well that people really enjoyed seeing my opinions on, and I got outside perspective, third person view. I was just watching all this happen like I do on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it.
I call it Twitter. Like, I'll stop dead naming Twitter as soon as he stops dead naming his fucking kids.
Yeah.
Go, sorry.
But the way that I engage in that platform is I get up in the mornings. Now I'm posting more in the afternoons, but I jump on, I see like a For You page, and then I go make a post, and I go through my own comments and interact with a little bit of people on my page. But the amount of time that I am on any other existence on Twitter is when I jump on for that 30 seconds. So I go scroll up, scroll down, jump to my page.
Okay.
That is a good indicator of what gets thrown at me when I can say something like, oh, the blue trans girl on Twitter, or, oh, I saw this whole trans discourse happen.
Ooh, drama.
I get to see the big stuff explode, and I'm like, okay. And then I go look into it, and that's what happens. But
okay,
I wanted to talk on, her name is Sadie, because I think it's a fascinating look at internet culture in general, but also the concept, I think, of like what happens when you blow up on the internet, but also what happens when you're recognized or the internet chooses your personality for you, and then you're kind of stuck in it.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a couple folks that I've really witnessed this occur with lately. One of them being the Moth girl, whose entire existence online is that she likes moths, and she dressed up as a moth on Halloween, and everyone lost their mind because admittedly she does look very adorable as a moth. And And at the same time, because it's the cinematic universe, these two personalities clashed in one tweet at one point. Moth Girl fed into Blue Trans Girl, and their rise was at the same time, and I witnessed all of it. And then
I don't know anything about either of these, so this will be fun.
This is great, yeah.
Okay.
Part of the reason I wanted to talk about this with you is because I wanted someone else around to kind of check me, because the first thing I want to say is I do not want to talk about these ladies in a way that is meant to be disrespectful or is meant to be me like poking fun and pointing and laughing. The situations they put themselves in. And there is some valid criticism to come out of what I'm about to say. And I think it's worthy of discussion. So now that I've talked it all up, I'm going to kind of just start on this.
Go.
Sadie is a content creator that often does spicy stuff. And she has labeled herself as a chroma goth, which is basically goth aesthetic, but specifically, she has always enjoyed painting herself blue or presenting as blue. And so she's done that for years. And back, I believe in 2021, she was making stuff for like solitary enthusiasts and stuff in my realm, and was just leaning into being, trans goth creator. And then because of her passion and her desire and what she described at one point as, I believe it's Pictish ancestry, which is like the Scottish ancestry where they used to paint themselves blue.
Oh yeah, the Picts. Yeah. Has anybody made Blue Goth group as a joke yet?
No.
Blue Goth group?
I think so. See, this is why I needed to talk to you so you can contribute to... Well, it's too late now. It's flash in the pan. You missed your window. But we can get all the jokes in after the fact. But she just was doing her thing as all content creators do, getting out there in the world and all that stuff. Her recent rise and spotlight that happened, as all things on the internet sometimes do, is you do your thing for a while and then sometimes something hits and the internet takes
just scoops you up
and goes, you are ours now. We have decided you are however we want to discuss, treat, or view you.
Right.
And most of that happens outside of your control. Not too long ago, she started a Safe for Work Twitter account, which basically just meant, as opposed to pushing solitary enthusiasts, my code word, she just was just standard photos and stuff, which, again, everything's so shitty on Twitter that you can start doing that as a trans woman, and in a couple months, you're more likely to just get sussed out and shadow banned, regardless of how safe your content is, etc. It's a nightmare. Yeah. Quick note. Folks are always like, why are you still on there? I'm on there for other trans women. It's still a place where they exist, and a lot of my experience there and what I gain out of that isn't support of the platform. It is finding those other trans women and then trying my best, honestly, to lead them to spaces that are more accepting or can view.
And I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I would love to be a few months ago where I could say, hey, everybody leave X and come to Blue Sky, but Blue Sky sucks now. It's not that bad. Like in terms of the community, there's a lot of trans people. I'm friends with lots of trans people in there, and it's great. And it's a wonderful place to be. The Disaster Queer House Party is what we've been calling it kind of from its inception. But the leadership of Blue Sky is awful, racist, transphobic, misogynistic, really bad actors all around. So I can't even be like, hey, here's the direct alternative to Leave X. So even that's murkier.
It's all murky.
So people who want to get all f***ing judgy can do it in the comments because it's engagement.
It's right. Get in there. Let me know.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Tell me I shouldn't be on Twitter because I know already.
Bad girl.
I know, yeah. But she gets scooped up partially because our Moth, this is where Moth Lady comes in.
Oh, right, Moth Girl.
So Moth Girl blows up on Halloween.
Okay.
Because she dressed up as a moth. It's a very cute photo. And boom, blown up. And then people kind of ran across like, oh, she's super into moths. That's kind of her thing. And she noticed at the same time that a random post of a blue girl showed up. And she commented on that. And because everyone was looking at Moth Lady, like now moths to flame, they all went over here. And that blew up at the same time.
Moth to a blue flame.
To a blue flame, which is hotter than orange.
Which is hotter. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. that exploded Sadie into the spotlight as well.
Okay.
And so suddenly it became like an in-trans joke for a while of being like, why am I seeing blue trans women on the timeline? And why am I'm blue now. And what's the story with the blue girl? And everyone's blue and all that stuff. And it's just this, like, as the internet does, it just all happened over the course of like 48 hours. And suddenly you just watch Sadie just be like, rise from the dirt. And you're just suddenly like, everyone's here now. And as an outsider, I watched all of that happen. And I've seen this happen many times with many influencer folks. To be honest, maybe I'm wanted to talk about this because I have my own fears around that. And folks have always asked, like, oh, have you ever wanted to be a bigger content creator? And I've always said, first off, that's not really my goal, is to judge what I do based off of other people knowing me. A big part of me is like, oh, that might be cool. I could reach more trans folks in this way. And then the other part of me, the reality part, goes, Ashley, you know what comes with that. And this is a good example, which is two things, I think. One, a lot of attention put on you in any capacity is often dangerous and a bit of a mind and hard to process. And depending on your personality, you can take that many different ways. The other thing that happens with this is kind of what I mentioned, which is the internet choosing your path for you, which happens a lot. You watch Instagram Reels and TikToks, and you'll sometimes find a profile that has 7 million followers, and you're like, this has 7 million followers. It's a guy pretending to read a book, and it seems like every video of his is him reading a book in this corner, and you realize, like, that hit the algorithm, and he just was like, I'm the book guy now. So in a similar fashion with Moth Lady, very much into moths, but then now that's it. So ever since, you look at that point before the rise, and it was a mix of opinions and content and comments, and then you kind of get that like rush and endorphin bit, and you realize like, oh God, I've got to embrace this real quick and ride this wave. Especially if I want to kind of get positive benefits from this experience.
Right.
Suddenly she's like doubling down on moth stuff, and it becomes everything she does. And that's okay. That's not me saying like, how dare you? Yeah. The other question, which in her case seems like she was passionate about that, and that's kind of what she likes doing. If that's the case, awesome. But at the same time, you are forever Moth Lady. Like I'm describing you that way now too. Before I go into kind of what happened with Sadie, which is a very different story, because as far as I know, Moth Lady has kind of just stuck to that, and that's what she does. And it's tapering off a bit, but she's just kind of embracing it and moving forward. For me, I kind of always have a little bit of that fear of like, what's the thing I do or put out there that if it does hit in that regard,
now you're just in a lane,
and I have a choice to make at that point of like, do I embrace this or do I not? And to be honest, I worry about what my decision would be if that were the case. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know if there's a wrong answer to whether or not you're going to steer into it or like bounce away from it or I don't know, a third option. I don't think there's a wrong answer there, but I do see what you mean by, first of all, it's one thing if Moth Girl, for example, renamed herself Moth Girl before she blew up and decided that was going to be her persona. It's another thing to kind of have that foisted upon you by that reaction, and then you're stuck with that choice. I could also see how it would be disconcerting to think about yourself being in that situation and not really knowing what your reaction would be, because that's just a giant unknown. And I guess we all struggle with that concept of like what it means to sell out or what it means to cash in or what it means to not be authentic. And we've talked about Hans Georg Mueller a couple of times, but he has this whole thing about profilicity, and authenticity was the 20th century and the 21st century is profilicity, and authenticity is kind of diametrically opposed to profilicity because profilicity is profile based, and so you create a persona for yourself and then that's what you lead with, and it actually becomes more real than the real you, and so authenticity subsides. All of that stuff is really murky territory for me. When he talks about profilicity, he talks about the generations younger than us maybe Gen Z, but for sure Gen Alpha, where they're just natively born to Profilicity. So they won't ever have this conundrum, right? Mm-hmm. But if we're moving as a society in a permanent level from leaving authenticity into Profilicity, our generations are going to have the hardest time with that adjustment, because just like we talked about before with cell phones and the internet and remembering what it was like before that, we came from a time where authenticity was important. And in some ways, that seems to be undervalued now, and people are much more concerned with the profilicity of somebody's life and their persona and their profile, and all of a sudden being Moth Girl, or being, with you wouldn't know what it is, and suddenly you're this girl or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, do you just accept that? Because what does that mean about you? And then do you not accept that and lose out on the benefits that you could get? That's a hard, I could see that being a place of anxiety. Yeah.
See, this is why I'm glad I talked to you about this, because everything you just broke down is exactly kind of what I wanted to discuss on this. Because, that is that aspect where you go, okay, now is Moth Girl being authentic about this? Is that what I liked about following her in the first place? Is that rise and that spike, especially of, and this was fun to want to talk about with you, just because it's also a view of like the constant churn and burn of the internet, which I always just love discussing and examining, just because it's it happens so often,
so
and you can kind of predict,
and so fast, and predictable in some ways, and then completely unpredictable in other ways.
When I see someone go through this cycle, and I've been around long enough on the internet to continue coasting along without anyone cherry picking me and deciding my fate. But when I've seen this happen, I've seen it go well and I've seen it go horribly. An example of things going fairly well but still being put in a box is like Finster, my friend Finster, who against their will was kind of put into the place of representing a lot of like trans femboy, that whole world.
Okay, sure.
And Finster stepping outside of that at any point, trying to do anything a little different from that category the internet has decided to put her in, doesn't really go well. Like a lot of pushback, and that's that whole, well, we've decided this is what you are. This is what made you. We're not going to let it go kind of aspect of it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So we will get back to Sadie's story, because she went a very different route than Moth Girl.
Moth Girl embraced it and was just like, okay, I'll be Moth Girl. So here's some moth pictures, and here's me talking about moths, and here's me moth facts, and just how much I love moths, and moth videos, and more pictures, and maybe she'll have more costumes for moths soon. Okay, just full embrace. Okay.
Yep. And then when it comes to Sadie, a lot of attention put on her very quick, as well as, like, I'm sure when that happens, subscriptions to the spicy sites and things along those lines. And as a trans woman, you're kind of already prone to being guarded and being in this state, especially online.
Yeah.
And that can create kind of a vicious cycle where I think damned if you do, damned if you don't. Talking about your transness pisses people off. Not talking about it pisses people off.
Yeah.
And I think unequivocally what I can say about Sadie is, like, the internet may have decided to put a bunch of attention on her and say, this is the blue trans lady, or this is the blue lady. They don't always have to say the trans in there. But
they don't have to, for sake, but okay, yeah.
What started happening, I think, and this is where I'm going to sound like I'm trying to be, I will have criticism on these aspects. And it's more just like a warning, maybe. Not only for folks who might see this cycle and be like, maybe I shouldn't treat people this way. But also on the other side, if you ever find yourself in this kind of situation, little things started happening with the attention that got to her.
Okay.
I think a little bit of that rise and fall. You see a lot of people paying attention, and I think there's an aspect of that you kind of get like that dopamine rush and you want to keep going.
Yeah, sure.
And Sadie's smart enough to know, like, this is marketing for me. And how a lot of folks do that is rage bait a bit. or lean into that, or suddenly start making bigger statements that they themselves might not even believe.
Right. Some inflammatory just to get negative comments, to say something wrong so people correct them. Yeah. Okay.
And so in her case, she started kind of touching into territory that I'm not judgmental on, but started talking about, like, if I don't see myself as blue, I feel dysphoric. That's something you're more than allowed to say, but when you're in the environment I've talked about many times, of course, people on both sides are going to be like, how dare you talk about that? You're undercutting our movement. You know, we're trans and we have to be, as I always say, like these specific boxes. And if you don't hit those boxes, you're actually counteracting us, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think if you really look at it, I think it's just her feeling and trying to express it using words. What do you know that maybe some folks could relate to? And I don't think that there was necessarily a negative, that's not a negative thing to say, because it's her way of expressing, like, no, I feel happy, I feel good about being blue, so much so that I'm considering getting tattooed, etc., like making my skin
just
blue.
Permanently blue.
Permanently blue. Who the cares if she wants to do that, to be honest? Like, who
Sure.
are we to come forward and be like, don't, how dare you? And especially to be like, don't undercut our movement, etc. Don't confuse people, because those same people that are confused and shitty are going to be just as shitty whether you're turning blue, or just as shitty if you say, well, my identity is this. Like again,
Right.
It's that spectrum, right? And I think that was kind of that first like strike, right? Because the internet kind of reacted to that in a way that counteracted what she was saying. And she felt like she had to defend herself. And once you start down the path of like defending yourself on the internet, I think you start that tumble.
Yes.
To her defense, as someone that's trying to hear every perspective I can and just bring this stuff up for discussion, she's already guarded and been struggling, you know, and had to kind of defend her existence forever, right?
Yeah, because I mean, besides the blue thing, like as a trans woman, there are just people that are like, you don't exist, you're not valid, yourself, like whatever it is, like of course you're already going to be guarded, and then on top of that, this is like a whole other level of it where you're even going to have trans people criticizing you. So you're going to have criticism from your own community that you thought that you were protected with when from outside. Yeah, so that seems messy. I can see that. Yeah,
I can understand, and also if you're an independent personality, you're not really going to take shit lying down. I wouldn't say that I'm gonna lay down when it comes to some people coming after me, but I personally don't see a lot of value in counteracting too much of that. If I feel like there's someone that I can maybe sway opinions on, or I'll admit, like, I'll be in a mood of being like, this will be fun for me. I never approach someone being shitty to me as a, like, I need to put them in their place. Often I just approach it as like, okay, let's see where this goes. I don't feel defensive about it, you know, and I don't, I'm like, that's not worth my energy or time.
Smart.
If I were to be like, oh, my thing is, I would say maybe my thing is like, I'm a little overly optimistic just in general. Like, I'm the trans lady that's sitting here being like, I know you all hate the blue lady now, but maybe there's dominoes that led to this effect, etc.
Oh, so spoiler alert, she's hated now.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will admit, maybe with good reason, but
okay,
the steps leading up to that, I think, all tie together in this regard.
Okay.
Because I am not a fan of what kind of made her disappear for a while. People are willing to change and maybe see their perspective, but we'll see. That first round of defense happens, and now I think she's also tasting a little bit of that, like, ooh, me being combative and me giving strong opinions is continuing to make this roller coaster feel like an up and not a down.
Oh my God, because one of the problems with this whole thing is, and like I've got a following on Blue Sky, and so even I can attest to this a little bit, you start getting notifications. I mean, the whole concept of social media is inherently addictive and therefore evil, and why kids shouldn't be on it or whatever, but it's a slot machine, right? Every time you open it up, do you have notifications? Oh, 0 this time, 0 this time, 10 this time, 0 this time, like plus this time, like I capped out. I don't know how many I have. And it's this endorphin rush, and that starts to become more important than why people are liking things. And so all of a sudden you have all this attention, and if it starts positive, the fact that it's become negative is almost less important than the amount of attention is still there. And so if you're still getting retweets and you're still getting likes from people that just like you're being shitty, and you're not equating getting ratioed with the fact that you've got 25 notifications, they're all comments telling you to go fuck yourself, but it's still that endorphin rush. Like, it's a terribly addictive cycle. It's super dangerous. So I'm with you.
And on top of that, once that happens and once those numbers are big enough, you actually get to a point where you may not even have to defend yourself, because there will be people doing that
just
for
jumping
you
in
the comments. And that aspect too of they've chosen your personality, or they think they have a parasocial understanding of who you are. I saw a lot of that happen, where they would just over the course of this rush into like defend or define her statements, et cetera, meaning that she often wouldn't even have to like step up to do that, because there's people doing it for her.
Which I don't know if this is where it's going, but this can lead to the predilection of saying shitty things in this specific way where you don't have to defend yourself because other people will. So you just keep saying shitty things because it keeps getting attention, and other people are jumping in to defend you, so you can keep going.
I wonder if that's going to happen here. Around this time is when I really started to notice this story and notice her, that she had blown up since Moth days or whatever. And it made me curious, because when she was discussing and talking about getting fully tattooed, a lot of these new fans and folks came forward to be like, oh, the way you're describing this isn't very healthy, etc. And she got very combative with that, until she did hear from actual tattoo artists that were like, no, all those people were also kind of right. Like, the tone of blue you're trying to go for, it, your skin counteracting, all this stuff, it's going to be harder than you think. So she kind of had to walk back that a little bit. And then simultaneously, she came forward at that point, and this is where I noticed heavily, because this is very counterintuitive to my perspective. She made this very bold, big statement that was basically saying, if you're trans and you come forward to me demanding or asking for advice, that's not my fucking job, basically. And you can use Google. And that's not my role, and you need to basically like leave me the fuck alone. And that spiked something in me that I thought up until that point, this has all just kind of been a fascinating watch. At that point,
sure,
for me personally, who knows that the only reason I get to do what I do is from people supporting me or coming forward and basically being like, hey, I admire you in this way, or can I get advice? For me, I can't even wrap my head around the concept of basically looking at someone like that and being like, fuck off, go Google.
Yeah.
Again, in her defense, you get about 3,000 of those a day. Sure, I can understand a bit of the frustration. I think for me, what bothered me was how bold that was. It came across, I'm better than this.
So there's a way to say something like that, I would assume. Like, I could see saying something like this, where it's just like, hey, I blew up here for a bit, and some people are asking me very similar questions, and they're coming in a lot. And I just want to say, like, I might not be the best person to speak to this. I don't know how comfortable I am doing this. So maybe first of all, take what I say with a grain of salt, and maybe we can tone down the rhetoric of some of these questions that are being asked to me. So like, there's a way to handle it, but it sounds like, that thing, that Jeff Goldblum has. It's just like a little clip on YouTube or something. And it's just like him sitting at a table, and he says, people ask me, all the time, how do you pronounce it? Is it Jeff Goldblum or Jeff Goldblum? And I always say the same thing. How dare you speak to me? And but it sounds like the sincere version of that. How dare you ask me a question? Am I some sort of answer fairy? And
there's validity to that being the way it was put down, because it also aligned with the realization of rage baity stuff causing more spotlight to grow. So I think it timed too perfectly, because with that, both sides came out again to give attention. That's why I noticed it, right? Because there was people defending her. There was people coming forward kind of like me and being like, that's a bit
much.
That's a bit of a that's a bit much, I think. This could, like, we understand for sure, and we're not asking for you to, like, apologize to us, but we are saying, like, it probably could have been handled a little bit better. But I don't think that was ever the intention. I think it was meant to do, maybe I can be a little bold with this and see what happens. And that was strike 2. We're counting them. And again, just kind of coasted by for a bit, continued a following, and you're seeing a lot of, like, I will say a little bit of desperation, I suppose, in seeing, like, the roller coaster starting to come to an end. And then the most recent thing that happened only a week ago was that the theory is that she may have had a breakup or something, but she went on to, and I have the exact tweet so I don't misquote this.
Smart.
There it is. Okay. I found it. So it's very simple, but what spawned from this is interesting.
Okay.
Done with trans men forever. Sorry. And, you kind of go, in a certain regard, that's also like, you see the cis women always being like, I'm done with men forever, et cetera, et cetera. And I think if it had just been that tweet and not anything followed up or even diving into the comments, it probably just would have existed and floated away.
I mean, first of all, if she had just said, I'm done with men forever, sorry, then maybe nothing would have happened because as a cis man, yeah, all men, like, yes, all men, yes, I know. And so there's validity to it, but I'm done with trans men. Yeah, it gives me pause. I mean, like, not necessarily in a way that I feel like, oh, it's my place to weigh in on that, but it definitely gives me pause. Okay, so that happened.
Yes, so that happened, and I think the same way that we both reacted, we're just kind of like, ooh, that kind of, maybe not wording it that way would be a good thing. And I think that that's kind of what happened. Folks came forward and were kind of like, being trans yourself, kind of like highlighting them specific, like saying trans men in particular. Shockingly, especially for Twitter and stuff, there wasn't a ton of like vitriolic initially. It was mostly just like, hey, that kind of like, hey, maybe look at this a little bit and think about
maybe clarify a little bit. Maybe say that you're being hyperbolic just for effect. Maybe.
Like,
yeah.
and also just like, what does this mean, etc. And again, this is that thing where the internet signed her up to be like, you're a trans woman who's finding success. The blue thing is a part of your personality. We all have chosen you to kind of be a representative and voice for us in a certain part of our community. So if you kind of like isolate a group of that community and tear into them,
that's really hard.
We're all going to speak up and say, hey, we've chosen you to be a bit of a voice for us, which isn't...
But not like that.
Not like that. And again, that's not even her decision necessarily, right? It was just thrown, it's cast upon her. That was just, she's Frodo from Lord of the Rings. But like that happens all the time for these creators. And then this kind of cycle happens because what happened was that she tripled down in ways that made this original statement less of like, and maybe, in poor taste, but we get the joke, and more of like, what the f***?
Well, okay.
She came back with basically, I stand by this. I won't elaborate. The girls who get it, etc. And then it started being like, actually, f*** all you. How dare you? And then it was, I'm going to change my cover photo to a dog taking a shit on the tree and saying this is what like trans men deserve. And so the further the pushback and defense and like,
the more she went down. Yeah.
The more that became like, oh, maybe you could have moved on from this. And the more it started to define her. And so that caused more attention and more, but this time I think it skewed so heavily dark and negative that she just pulled out completely. So she just muted her account, disappeared for a while. and then just basically came back with a little announcement video that was an apology or whatnot, that was just basically being like, y'all, I say what I want to say, etc. Now, that is a lot that I just kind of unloaded. And the thing that I think, and I can be critical of, is that there's a certain point in there where if you don't want to come across as hypercritical or bigoted against a group of folks that are already in a tough situation, you might want to say that. You might want to just maybe give a little bit of that defense down and be like, hey, look, everyone, I said that. Yes, I'm not saying all trans men are the devil, because that's ridiculous. Like, I can't literally mean that. Anything along those lines. But when you double, triple, quadruple down and just refuse to even acknowledge that, it starts to make you go, well, what actually are your beliefs? And
right.
If you're not willing to actually lay them out, then it makes sense why folks would, stop following, disconnect, or be critical, which is what I'm doing. I'm looking at the situation and saying that would never be something I would say, because I even get uncomfortable when you just said, all men, etc., and I kind of laughed and all of that stuff. But the truth is, and I know you personally, so I know that you're not being literal.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. You are just...
There's 11 or 12 of us that are fine.
You specifically are in that demographic, right? You are,
which
in a
does
way,
make a difference, me saying it to somebody else saying it, because
yes.
when I say yes, all men, one of the reasons why I say that is because when someone is saying that men are dangerous, when someone is saying that men are rapists, when someone is saying that men kill women, when someone is saying that men are bastards, the reason why I, as a man, will get on board with that and defend other men saying not all men is because it's like the argument for treat every weapon like it's loaded. Mm-hmm. If you do firearm classes, that's what you hear all the time. Treat every weapon like it's loaded, no matter what, right? And so the worst that can happen to a woman on a date, I mean, we're just talking about a man and a woman going on a date. The worst that can happen to a man on a date is embarrassment. The worst that can happen to a woman is dismemberment. Mm-hmm. It's a different level of escalation. And so I'm a large 6'9" male with a beard. Mm-hmm. When I walk outside, and if someone has not met me, they have no idea if I'm dangerous. And so until that woman can walk the streets cloaked in the protection of basic decency, I should be on the hook a little bit for that. And I should be criticizing men, and I should be getting them to shape up. And I should be helping as I can to get to the point where people don't want to say yes, all men anymore. Mm-hmm. But that's an internal way of looking at that, right?
For sure.
And I am not about any other group saying f*** all. I don't think I've said f*** all of that group that I haven't belonged to.
Yeah.
And so that is different.
And I think that's kind of the key aspect here, is that I can be uncomfortable when you say that, because I'm, if I were to say that, that would make me feel shitty.
Yes.
You are in a way simultaneously acknowledging your own flaws while saying that. So you're in a way self-deprecating yourself as you say it in a way that is like, I'm a part of this too. Right.
And and not to get too far off the field, but there's a part of that with me and saying that about men or saying that about white people or whatever, that it's actually important to face your shadow, to face the part of you that is dangerous, to face the part of you that is, like when you were talking a minute ago about Blue Girl and how when she got really vitriolic and when she started really angry, all of a sudden that was changing her persona and she's not Blue Girl anymore. She's like Angry Girl or whatever. Mm-hmm. I am not allowed to get mad. I'm not in my life. Like, I'm 6'9". And so when I'm sorry I keep saying that, but it's such a factor of my life. When I get actually mad, it ruins relationships permanently. I can find that as unfair as I want to, but also who cares? Because at the end of the day, someone seeing someone like that, the monkey part of your brain, the lizard part of your brain, whatever, it kicks in, and there's just a large gorilla furious, and that's going to scare someone maybe permanently. Like, I have a problem with Barack Obama as the president of the United States that he was. I think he's largely responsible for why we have so many problems right now. He should probably be tried for war crimes. Like, I am not trying to praise Barack Obama's presidency. The reason I'm bringing him up is because, and I have this at 1% of what a black man has, like maybe less. It just gives me a little bit of insight. I do have a lot of respect for him being president for 8 years and never once losing his temper, because the first time it happens, he's the angry black man. And that's all there is to him. And it's reductive or whatever. And so when it comes to kind of criticizing my place in things, it is self-deprecating. It is a little bit of a joke, but it's also like, no, we should take this seriously, because we should take the criticisms of this seriously. Now, I don't know what it's like to be a woman or a trans person. I don't know what it's like to be not white, but in my experience, right? I could be wrong about this. One of the reasons I also feel comfortable with this, with my stance and just kind of just talking shit and being a shit poster and saying woman, is because of hegemony. Like, it's the men are like dominant and oppressive and dangerous, and white people are dominant and dangerous and oppressive. And so those two groups, it's incumbent on me to be very critical. I think if I was a black man, or if I have no idea what would change about me if that was the case. So I'm talking out of my ass here, but I feel like I would be less inclined to be self-critical of my in-group, because they're already having a hard time. Men are doing fine. Like, white people are doing fine. Like, it's like, oh yeah, feel bad for men. They've been having it rough for a couple of months now. You know, it's like, it's a very different thing. But when you're talking about a marginalized group, that kind of attack, and I mean, it gets even more complicated there, because you're talking about a woman criticizing men, but you're doing it with inside an internal trans lens. I mean, that seems very dangerous, and I would totally understand where all of that criticism is coming from. And I can also understand the impulse to double down, because it's like, I've been used to being challenged and being like this. This has been rewarding. I'm going to keep this pattern of behavior, and almost being confused as to why it's not working anymore, or something like that. I don't know. I think I meant to have another point, but I wandered off.
No, that was great, because that's what you just discussed is also why it was tough for me to even decide to talk on this. But then I realized at a certain point, I always come in, I'm not sitting here being like, how dare she, look at this idiot, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's just not who I am, first off. But the point of it being like, this is a trans woman. I do have some things I can relate to, which makes me be in a place where I can have a discussion that's a little bit more like open and worthy of talking, and not just like one sentence dissections of Twitter, you know. And so it was up in the air whether or not I even wanted to talk on this and for folks to focus in on. But then I realized my hesitation was probably worthy of me talking about this, because we're getting this conversation out of bringing this up. Because I don't want to sit there and be overly critical of the marginalized group that I'm a part of, especially when, you know, she's technically like my sister through this, right? Yeah. But I do have to speak up when things like this happen, and just point out like, hey, there's either one, better way to do this, or two, a way to learn and grow and even come forward and be like, hey, look, maybe I was wrong. I was wrong about this. This is what I actually believe, and move forward from it. And I think, as I usually say when I discuss these things, that's not how the internet works, and that's not how you gain fame on the internet. Yeah. The easiest way to continue getting fame is to continue being kind of shitty in how you respond. And I think it is just a unique story amongst the many, many times I've seen this happen. In particular, because you don't see a lot of blue women going through something like this.
Sure.
And it is something that sticks out. And I think that is kind of worthy of discussion on its own, too, because looking back at myself and how I became who I am and all of that, I was known as the trans cosplayer. That was my label when I really started blowing up. It was a Wonder Woman cosplay that blew up, and then everyone's like, ooh, we as an internet, oh my God, it did happen. I acted like I didn't know what my thing was. I did have a thing until it petered off a little bit. But back in my day, I was the cosplayer, the hot woman cosplayer that had a secret, and it was that, oh, she was trans, etc. And I existed in that for a long stretch where I lived and what was chosen for me to kind of be. So I can, on a level, relate to her when it comes to like, you're pre-labeled this now. You've been chosen.
Sure, but sort of like we were talking about before, sort of, and correct me where you disagree. When I was saying if Moth Girl had chosen her new handle to be Moth Girl and that's what got her popular because she had embraced it or whatever, you were already doing cosplay. Like on some level, you had more control. Yes, I think you're right that the internet collectively was like, oh, this is your thing, we've decided for you or whatever. But you were already doing cosplay, right? You were already doing that kind of dress up stuff. So you were embraced for what you were doing. Right. Whereas maybe the blue girl, I mean, we're calling her Blue Girl, right? But before the Blue Girl thing, she was just a person online with a personality that happened to have this blue thing. And then she went from that to being a blue thing. Like your hesitation that you were describing at the beginning of this conversation, I think is still in play. Like it could still happen to you again, but in a way that you didn't already kind of pre-choose. Like what happens if you do something that's not about cosplay? It's also not about being trans. It's also not about the trans community. It's also not any of the stuff that you've done before. You do something and you're goofing around and all of a sudden the internet goes, oh, that's you now. Maybe that has happened to you before, but what happens when it happens, if it happens to you entirely against your will in a way that you weren't looking for? And that's not the attention that you were seeking. And suddenly you're getting more attention than you were. And now you're stuck with the, okay, do I keep being the person that I was and let this fade? Or do I embrace this because it's getting attention? It would get me more attention, but now I will always be this thing. Like for you, I mean, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, the cosplay part was comfortable for you because you were already doing it. But what happens if this happens to you and it's not something that you're comfortable with? And suddenly it's now something you're making yourself do. It's not something you'd be naturally doing whether or not people would be paying attention.
Exactly. I think that is also, that's kind of probably why I didn't consider it as part of the fear or even realize like it had already happened, because that was so tied into like what my identity already was that it didn't feel like a skewed direction from where I already was existing.
So the bottom part that you talked about, the internet going, oh, we've decided that's your thing now, did still happen to you, but it was the thing that you were doing.
Already doing, yeah. So that, lucky for me, I think when it comes to Blue Girl, that was a part of who she was, but there's also a part of me that completely understands, because I also did it with my cosplay, that in a world that we're in online, if you want attention, you need a gimmick. Like you need a niche, and you need to be in some capacity someone who stands out. And there are so many of us that exist, and so many of us that get chosen for that spotlight, even if it wasn't their intention. But there are many more folks that I think are intentionally trying to find their way into that. And I think that, even just discussing my own bias, I think I was immediately skeptical, maybe is the word, of Blue Lady initially. Because for me, I saw that as like, oh, what a clever way to kind of get
attention.
Noticed. Yeah, to get attention. That's very unique. And I was so thrown and so confused. And I wasn't judgmental at all. Like literally the whole time I kept reminding myself, like, what is it about this that is like stuck in my craw. And I'll go ahead.
Well, what was one thing that made me think of is and I want to be careful here too because first of all, I don't know who this person is. This is my first hearing about it, right? So I have no. And by the way, I don't know if we've talked about this already before. So tell me if we have. But like, when it comes to like criticizing somebody or being critical of somebody or wanting to help somebody and saying something, my attitude is like, you're never gonna meet a bigger piece of shit than me. Like I know myself and I just don't think I'm better than anybody else. I don't think I'm worse than anybody else, but I definitely don't think I'm better than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And I have problems. And so whenever we're talking about this kind of stuff critically, it's like, hey, I am not doing this from the high ground. I am doing this from like, do you need a boost up from where I am almost? Mm-hmm. So anyway, what you just said made me have this thought of like, yeah, okay, I could see that. You all of a sudden see someone that's talking about being fully blue, and whether you like this or not, kind of a question comes to you unbidden. Do you really like being blue? Or is that a thing that you could do for attention? Where's the, like, what's her name? The Dora the Explorer TikTok girl that was like, can you make me a sandwich? And then she had a sandwich thrown at her head. Fucking hilarious, right?
Yeah. Can you make me a sandwich
But then there's like 26 videos of that happening, and like some of them are soft things, but one of them was a fucking binder and it looked like it hurt. Yeah. And I was like, do you really like getting stuff thrown at your face? I don't think so. You're doing this as a gimmick, which I can understand and I can even respect, but you didn't get started for the love of having things thrown at your face. You did this for attention. You captured the attention. Good for you. No judgment, but you can't tell me in your heart of hearts the reason this happened is because you woke up every day hoping that someone would throw something at your face.
Yeah.
And so like, you kind of, without necessarily even wanting to, it's like, okay, do you have an obsession with the blue thing? If you say you do, I'm not going to say you don't, but like, just like, is this a real thing? Is this a thing? Or is this a thing that you thought could get attention? Is it 10% true? And you're saying it's 100% true for attention?
I'm so glad you brought this up because what you just discussed leads into the ultimate aspect of my own realization, which was part of me started doing that and literally starting to question. And then it kind of made me have to confront my own perspective on how people might see me.
You. Yeah.
Right? So I've always, I guess the word's preached. I've always preached and embraced and talked fully about you are who you say you are, and that you are trans enough or you are enough in whatever capacity.
Yeah.
And this was a time where I came across a trans woman and my brain didn't even process like, oh, just woman, just there. And the blue thing hit that little spike of hesitation in me, I think, that was like, is this real or is this for etc.? And it suddenly made me confront that aspect and see a perspective that I've usually only ever dealt from and like outside into me, which is, oh, you cosplay and you're a trans woman. It's a costume. It's all fake. You don't actually believe that. That's not a part of who you are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I have seen some awful comments thrown your way, whether it's about cosplaying or whether it's about your identity, where people will tell you that you're not who you say you are, that you're a liar, that you are doing this for reasons that are different from what you say, that you're not that thing. It's really disgusting. To me, it's really disgusting. To me, tell me if I'm wrong, and anything I'm about to say, I apologize if I offend anybody. I'm much more bothered when someone says that about your identity than I am when someone says that about your cosplay. I have seen people say, dressing up like other people is no way to go through life. Like you're just putting on other people's clothes. Why don't you be yourself? And now maybe there's an undercurrent of transphobia to that. Don't get me wrong. But when it's just down the middle, cosplay is stupid and you're stupid for doing it, I don't like that. That's my friend. Off, I'll fight you. But when it comes to you're not who you say you are as a woman, I find that really egregious. And then the the cosplay part kind of egregious. Okay, so here's where I get to the part where I'm like, I'm sorry in advance if I offend anybody. I am asking this question out of more of ignorance than anything else. Do you think, okay, gender, sex, identity, orientation, sexuality, that's really integral to who we are? Hopefully people can understand that my position is, I mean, yes, trans people not only deserve your acceptance, they deserve your support and your protection. I believe very strongly in that kind of stuff. When it comes to secondary features that coincidentally, or maybe not coincidentally or whatever, often accompany transness that I don't associate as being in any way integral to the concept of transness or gender, try to say this differently, is the blue thing of the trans woman completely separate from the trans woman. And so is the criticism of the blue completely separate from any potential criticism of her transness, right? And so it's a different issue. Or for reasons that I don't fully process, are they intricately linked? And I'll use a different example to highlight this with furries. Like, there are trans people, there are furries, there are a lot of furry trans people. Is someone's identity as a furry integrally linked to their identity in terms of gender? Or can those things be separated and thought of differently and criticized? I don't think it's weird to be a woman that was assigned the male gender at birth or vice versa. I don't find non-binary stuff weird at all. I don't find any of the things, the theys, the thems, the any genders, the any pronouns, none of that feels weird to me. That feels really natural to me in a way that just personally, and no judgment because I would never stop anybody from doing anything, I don't feel the same way about furries. I don't care about furries. Like, do your thing. Like, do your thing. Like, seriously, do your thing. But the same way, it's like, oh, if you really want to be blue, and if you want to wake up every morning and paint yourself blue, or if you figure out a way to tattoo yourself blue, that is not for me, but I'm not going to tell you not to do it. But is that integrally linked to the trans stuff, or is it separate? Can you criticize the blue or the furry without you? Okay, I think you understand what I'm asking.
I very much get it, because what you're doing, which I'm not going to call a spiral, because that wasn't you spiraling out, that was you trying to like wrap your head around it, is exactly what happened as soon as she started saying she felt dysphoric without being blue. Because it forced this kind of conversation to actually happen, which I see as probably the most positive thing to come out of the blue lady on Twitter, is this kind of discussion we're having right now. Because we are simultaneously questioning, asking, wondering, sitting here being like, I don't think I understand this. And the truth is, we don't necessarily have to, I think. Like, there's aspects of this that I don't think we have to. And I think that's okay to acknowledge too, as well. But I think and just to underscore that, just real quick, I want to say the same thing about people that like sports, because that's a much more normalized thing. I don't have to understand why people love sports. When people on Blue Sky complain about people talking about sports, I don't agree with that. I don't understand what the fuck they're talking about, but I'm glad they're finding joy. So like, if I'm annoyed by all the sports talk, that's the next thought I have, is like, I'm glad people are being happy right now and talking to each other. And if I'm still annoyed, then I'll mute that goddamn thing for a while or forever, and I won't worry about it again. So to me, being a huge Star Wars nerd or a Zelda nerd or whatever, or being a huge sports fan, or being a furry, like, because that one's less normalized, to me, it's kind of a similar thing. It's like, I might not get it. I don't have to get it. I don't have to get why you love sports so much. I don't have to get the furry component, and I don't have to get why you feel dysphoric if you're blue. It sparks a lot of questions or like things to think about, but like, no, it's not. I think I've said this to you before. It's very similar to that thing about like, if someone's talking to you about why they're in love with somebody and you fully understand why they're in love with somebody, that means you're in love with them too. Like, it doesn't work. You don't have to go that far, right? So I don't if I fully understood why she wanted to be blue, maybe I would want to be blue. Yeah. And that's not going to happen. So that's okay. Yeah. And we probably wouldn't be having this discussion, because this aspect of us kind of dissecting and discussing this and comparing things and being like ultimately saying like, oh, it's cool to talk on these things and then just kind of accept people.
Yeah.
That was the aspect of that I'm blue and I feel dysphoric that I thought was actually a positive thing.
That was good. Yeah.
And I liked seeing that discussion and those comments, even if they got a bit off the rails. It was just worthy of discussion as well as just kind of like a new way to think on things. And I think that that was actually, in a bizarre way, a strange gift she kind of gave in the process of this.
Yeah.
That was undercut and kind of unfortunately rug pulled by the follow-up, which was doing the box thing.
The vitriol.
And just saying, actually, I just opened up this entire discussion where people have to confront their own feelings over dysphoria or identity versus preference, et cetera, and kind of ruined that in a way by coming along and basically being like, oh, and by the way, all trans men, all trans men,
right?
And you kind of go, hold on,
whoa,
how can you not see that that these things are kind of interlinked and you're kind of undercutting your own because kind of beauty you were bringing in. Yeah.
Because there's this thing about when she's talking about feeling dysphoric for which she's not blue. Okay. I don't, this is not a reaction that I have, but I could see people having the reaction of, hang on, when I talk about dysphoria, I'm talking about this, and I am talking about a thing, and like, I don't like that you're using that word. I understand what you're trying to say, but like you're diminishing the work we've done to make that word important to people. One of the reasons why I'm like, if anything other than full-throated stentorian support of trans people disgusts me is because it's like, who doesn't look in the mirror and want to see something different than they're looking at? And trans people just have the temerity to do that. I suffer, I mean, on a technical level, I suffer from like body dysmorphia a little bit, but I don't use that word very often. I kind of go out of my way not to use that word because I see the potency of that word that has been, and that potency, that power of that word has been accumulated by the collective will and effort and community of the trans community. And so like, I don't need to use that word. On a medical level or whatever, even if I could, why would I? Because there are other words that do it. And for the same reason, I'm never going to say the N-word in my life again, is because I have learned the lesson of the power, both positive and negative of that, and how you have to respect that. And so when it comes to the word dysmorphia, I want to leave that word for trans people for their use. Or what, that's how I feel about that word. And so when it comes to blue, and I guess that's why I asked that question of is it integrally linked or not, it's like, are you undercutting the word dysmorphia by using it about the color of your skin in a way that doesn't have anything to do with race?
Yeah.
And then what that leads me directly to is the thing that you just said. It's like, oh, okay. So after all that, how can you say fuck all trans men? Because now you're talking about a group of people that all experience dysmorphia, the same thing that you were complaining about, but yours seems, I'm sorry, a little bit lower stakes than the gender part of it, right? Because yours is just, I don't want to say weird. I kind of mean weird in an interesting way. It's like different, but there isn't 0.9 or 1.1% of the population that wants to be blue and they're being persecuted for it or whatever. So when you're using the word dysmorphia, are you kind of taking that away from the larger community that you yourself are a part of? And then how can you then attack half of that community?
And I think, intrinsically, like, the other aspect of her being trans and saying that is also why folks defended her, saying, well, she's a trans woman. She's, dealt with a lot, so maybe she has the right to say that. But at the same time, you can sit there and be like, well, if she wasn't a trans woman, and she said something like that, we'd also have to really look at what that's saying in the same capacity. And it's like
that's a great point, actually, to what I just said. Okay, so I am online on Blue Sky, and there's a joke where I'm small, like SMOL, because as you know, there's a aspect of my personality that's completely antipodal to the fact that I'm a giant man. Yeah. And I don't necessarily like being a giant man. I am boy princess. That's my identity. And I don't love being a giant man. And I don't know if we've talked about this before, but like I'm self-conscious when I dance because I'm so much more you can see so much more of me. So everyone ends up just looking at me, and I don't really like that. I stand out. People like, there's a lot of stuff that I don't like about being this size, and I hit my head, like all this stuff. I'm a cis man. All of that I just said is fine. But what happens if I start saying I feel dysphoric about my height? I feel like all of a sudden I feel like I'm straying into territory where it's like, whoa, slow down, buddy. Maybe your life is hard. Like maybe you don't like your job. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep. Nobody likes their job. Nobody got enough sleep. Like, what are we fucking talking about here? Nobody's chasing you with the baseball bat because you're too tall. I do have one story where somebody hit me just because I was tall, but no one is like lying about sports or trying to change federal laws because of your height. Like, why are you using the word dysmorphia right now when you say, I wish I could be a small bean that could fit in your pocket and drive? You could walk around like a little gremlin and I could peek out. Why would you use the word dysmorphia to talk about that? Like, we've invested a lot in that word. And so there's something about that like does kind of ping with me when it comes to the blue part. But like the furry part, I'm like, I don't know, maybe that's my blind spot or oversight. And like you said, it's like, okay, well, she is a trans woman, right? So life is already kind of shitty to her, and people are abusing her and marginalizing her and maligning her. And she's the concept of transness seems inherently confusing and like hard to quantify because it is such a gray spectrum-y area. So this is part of her figuring that out. And maybe you can have a little grace and patience. Like I can also see that part of it. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think most folks on the internet, if they wanted to do a video like this, would end it by basically being like, all right, I'm going to call you out now, or I'm going to call you the worst.
So is it up or down?
Is it up or down? Yeah. Do we consider her an enemy now? And that's not what we do. What we do instead is say, hey, look, here's a bunch of this stuff going on. Let's kind of discuss and talk about it because it's worthy of discussion. And there are things that people can say that you can admit are shitty, and you can simultaneously look at the reasoning behind that. That makes a good villain as well. Like only the best villains have reason and backstory and all sorts of aspects that kind of like play into that stuff. But
that's interesting because that's a little bit of the conundrum, right? Because it's like at the end of the day, if someone's not being a bigot, if someone's not being violent or dangerous, I do have this inclination to be like, okay, that's just a flawed person. Are you telling me you're not a flawed? Like, let he without sin cast the first stone here. Like, yeah, okay, made a mistake, like, fucked up. Like, let's have some grace. But I feel differently when it comes to men in positions of power abusing their authority as sex pests or sexual abusers. And I feel differently about bigots of all stripes. And so that makes the all trans men part a little bit hard to reconcile. But I think I still would come down on this is a person. Yeah. We're all trying to figure shit out. We don't know what we're doing. Yeah. And nobody knows what they're doing.
And I think our discussion here is probably antithetical to like internet existence if we want to get bigger, to be honest, because
that's true.
We're not picking sides and picking folks apart.
All right, well then, Will Stancil. Yeah. Fuck that piece of shit, Will Stancil. Let's talk about how much Will Stancil sucks. That'll help the algorithm. No,
but mostly, I just wanted to present this to my audience because I think it will spawn and create some interesting conversations and discussion, as well as like maybe some perspective shifts for y'all out there. Because I am very curious to hear other folks' perspectives. And the truth is, as our audience and as the audience for my YouTube starts to grow, one thing I've really noticed is that y'all aren't very bitter, vitriolic, angry people. And that's been awesome. You have genuinely intrigued and opened my mind more. And I feel like we have been creating a space in which talking about the Blue Lady on Twitter can be a conversation and not some sort of violent shitfest of anger and bitterness. And it leads to, it's less about her and more about what can come from this. So,
your YouTube account will continue to grow. And as it gets bigger, this might change, but I've been supporting your channel kind of as soon as you had it, but then I came on and coming on made me pay, because I'm very self-involved, a little more attention to the YouTube comments. And I have to say that I agree with you. I was very surprised. I shouldn't say very surprised, I suppose, but I was very heartened to see like the positivity and the thoughtfulness in those comments. There wasn't a lot of dumb stuff that didn't have anything to do with anything. Mm-hmm. People were really saying stuff. There's very few comments that I've ever seen in your YouTube channel, specifically your YouTube channel, that needed to be, that I thought, oh, I wish we could delete that, or like, what a shitty comment or whatever. And I have experienced you existing in other places online, and that is not the case. So for whatever reason, you have a very thoughtful, interested, engaged group of people listening to you, watching you. And so, I'm also, I have no idea what to make of this whole story, other than it was fun to talk about. But I'm very interested to see what people have to say, because I bet you some people will say some stuff I haven't even thought of. Yeah.
Yeah. So jump in there. Let us know how it goes. Did you know that the Blue Lady even existed? It was a blue flash in a pan, to be honest. She's back with far less followers and just kind of admitted, like, yeah, it, I'm just going to keep doing my thing and move forward. And y'all who counterbalanced me, and I'm like, okay, do your thing. At this point, I'll probably just release this and never think about her again. But I will think forever on the conversations and general new perspectives of what this story created. So, thank you all for tuning in, listening to my story. Feel free to get me out there, share me around, get the likes and the comments all in there. And
how can you not leave a like? How can you not leave a like? If you're watching this still and you haven't left a like, what's wrong with you? It's just a button that you click.
Little push, just a little click, and you're right there.
Super helps. Like, what are you doing? And you're like still listening to us saying this part, and you haven't hit the like button. I don't understand.
So, hit that like. All right. Well, until next time, be hot, resist fascism.
Be hot, resist fascism.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. That was great.
So did? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sitting through that. And
also, look how good I look.
It's so good. Look at that, buddy. Like, as soon as it popped on, I almost just squealed, because I was like, oh my God, you got the camera working.
I was like, I'm not gonna tell her. I'm just gonna wait.
It was immediately it was immediately noticeable. So much so that I almost thought you were with me. Where I was like, did he just take a snap?
Something? Yeah,
record a snapshot, and that's what he's feeding. Just to it's been such a struggle. There's no way it actually happened in time, but here we are.